Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom. Today we're going to talk about the Battle of the Marne.
Yes, we're going back to World War I, the Great War, the greatest of wars, the war where we killed half the global population. Because, yay!
Like you do.
It was fought from the 6th through 12th of September 1914, so very, very early. Very early.
Yeah,
in World War I. On the outskirts of Paris, east across the Marne River near Brussels. Or Brussels. I'm going to mispronounce.
Not Brussels, though? Is it?
It's Brasles.
Okay.
It's French.
Brussels?
I will give this caveat right at the beginning. I'm going to butcher names all the way through. It was fought with the British Expeditionary Force, the French Army, under the leadership of Joseph Joffre, which had a total between the British and the French 1,082,000 men to fight. Quite a bit different than the previous battles we talked about.
Yeah, that's
a crap ton of people.
That's a big one.
It totaled 64 French divisions and 6 British divisions. A little bit of background information about
That's lopsided.
Yeah, it's very early in the war, so at this point, Britain's not too heavily involved yet. Although, to be fair, like 6 divisions was pretty much all the U.S. ever sent over in World War I anyways. We came in at the end and we're like, we did it! We won!
Da-da-da.
Congratulations! We came in at the 12th round after both boxers had been fighting, and then came in and punched a guy who was exhausted and said, we won!
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Drop the mic.
Yeah,
anyways, so a little bit of background about Joseph Joffre, the head of the Entente forces. So the Allies, instead of being called Allies, they were called Entente.
Okay.
Joseph Joffre was born January 12th, 1852, and he earns the nickname Papa Joffre. So for the rest of this episode, I'm going to refer to him as Papa.
Oh, Papa Jeff.
Oh, Papa J. He was career military, but before entering service, he worked on his family vineyards, because, it's France, and what other thing are you going to do in France besides make wine?
I mean, yeah, you grow the grapes.
Yep, you sure do. He would serve as the commander-in-chief of the French army until 1916. After a series of failed offenses, kind of gets him outed.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, he wins this, but does he really? Like this particular battle? I mean, we'll get through it. You'll get my point here in a minute. The German forces were the opposing side. They were under General Helmuth von Moltke. He had under his command 900,000.
Was he German?
Yeah, he's German. Yeah, von Moltke. What gave it away? The von part?
I think it was the umlauts.
The umlauts? The Helmuth von Moltke. I can get the German. The German I got.
Yeah, it's those French.
It's those French.
Sneaky French.
Those sneaky
They got
French.
A lot of silent letters in French.
God, they do. And it doesn't. It's like Mandarin. How you spell it is not how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Moltke had 900,000 men under his command, which was 51 German divisions.
Okay.
Von Moltke was born on the 25th of May, 1848, and he was nicknamed Moltke the Younger. Not as good. No, it's not as good. We're going to call him von Moltke because Moltke the Younger is not great.
Already not looking good for the Germans.
No, bad nicknames. He was also career military. He was the chief of the Great General Staff and operated as commander-in-chief of the German army in the years prior to the war and during the outbreak of World War I. He also served directly underneath von Schlieffen, who was his head commander in like 1901, 1902-ish time frame.
Okay.
That name will come back in a minute here. Basically, he's also one of the major contributors to World War I, and pretty much all the deaths kind of lie in his hands because
nice.
Because he was a part of developing the Schlieffen Plan with General Schlieffen, which was the objective to basically in 1904, General von Schlieffen, after fighting the Franco-Prussian War a few years prior, said, look, if we ever have to fight France again, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and not attack France across our common border, which is heavily defended.
Yeah.
We're going to instead attack innocent Belgium, go through Belgium, and go around the French defenses and into Paris.
That's a heady play.
That's a heady play.
It just involves one other country that you have to completely invade and take over. And
yep. And so when quickly to summarize it up, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated and the war kicks off, Germany goes, von Schlieffenplan! And they attack Belgium, which then gets Britain into the war. And then Belgium actually kind of, weirdly enough, for being such a small country, kind of held their own through the whole thing. Yeah,
easier to stay in one spot than it is to attack it. To defend a spot than it is to attack it.
It sure is. It sure is. So what leads up to the Battle of the Marne? So so at this point, like I said, it's very early in the war. We're actually at this point only 5 weeks into the war. Germany has started their advance on August 4th, 1914, into Belgium, and in about 2 months since the war kicked off in its entirety. So 4 months since Germany invaded Belgium, or 4 weeks, sorry, since Germany invaded Belgium, 2 months since the war kicked off.
Okay.
Germany has been kicking ass on both fronts, on the Eastern Front and the Western Front, so he's been kicking Russia's ass and French's ass the whole time.
Look at that. They were able to fight a war on 2 fronts and succeed.
At this point,
I bet that never comes back to bite them in the ass.
I bet you're right, Johnny. Basically, this is kind of a miraculous feat because von Moltke's general status is basically my work ethic, and that's and that's we're just going to let other people do it and hope that it gets done the right way. So General von Moltke allowed the generals of his individual divisions to operate with independence and do what they deem needed in their own individual engagements and areas of operations.
Do what you want.
Do what you want, exactly.
Let's see if it works.
So somehow this worked to the point where...
Well, broken clock.
Yeah, broken clock. Where times were so desperate for the French forces that they were in full retreat, and it was known as the Great Retreat, which took place between August 24th and September 5th of 1914. So Germany's doing so well that the French army's in full retreat.
Wow, for like a week and a half.
Yeah. Yeah,
2
so
weeks
they are now, I believe it's 20 kilometers outside of Paris, which is the ultimate goal of the Schlieffenplan. Take Paris, force Schlieffenplan, force the French to surrender. The British Expeditionary Forces, underneath Field Marshal Sir John French, were beginning a plan for the British forces to retreat across the port cities on the English Channel for immediate evacuation. So, Dunkirk, World War I style.
Yeah.
So you've already got the French in full retreat. The British were like, we're out of here too.
Yeah, bye.
This is looking pretty good for Germany. For now.
And such is the fate of Germany.
So
things are looking pretty
good for now. There's always that caveat, for now. Sir John French... Sir John French was born on September 28th, 1852. He is the first Earl of Ypres, or...
What?
Yeah, Ypres. Ypres?
Ypres?
Whatever. Career military. He claimed to be Irish, but he wasn't. Who the hell claims to be Irish? Not at this time. Like nowadays, when it's St. Patty's Day, we claim to be Irish. But like actually in this time when like Irish were kind of deemed second-class citizens, nobody... Why would you claim to be Irish? But he did, and he wasn't. Germany, like I said, had advanced within, 30 miles of Paris. They had advanced within 30 miles of Paris, and for some reason, God knows why, von Moltke got off his lawn chair, and on September 2nd, issued grand directive to abandon the Schlieffenplan, which his objective was to take Paris, and he said instead, bypass Paris, and then sweep across the Marne in an attempt to entrap the French forces between Paris and Verdun. So essentially, think about the Western Front having 2 major operation areas.
Okay.
You have the city, Verdun, the city of Verdun,
sure,
which is, I believe, east of Paris, and then you have Paris.
Okay.
So he wants, instead of taking Paris,
So he's changing the Schlieffenplan.
He's changing the Schlieffenplan.
But the Schlieffenplan was perfect. Which is why they implemented the Schlieffenplan.
Yeah, but apparently
Germans would not implement a plan unless it was perfect.
But he said, no, we're going to change it. So he ordered the troops to go across the Marne to basically cut off those 2 armies from each other. Which, if you would take Paris, you would do the same thing. So I really don't understand why you didn't just take Paris. Whatever.
He just got ahead of himself. Just one thing at a time, pal.
I think he did. This
Stick to the
he
Schlieffenplan.
should have. This decision was based on a radio transmission intercepted by von Moltke from his two German officers in the First and Second Army, indicating a massive French and British retreat across the Marne. So his first and second, like his general of the First Army and general of the Second Army, were issuing radio commands back and forth. They're
Okay.
saying, "Hey, French and British armies are in full retreat across the Marne." Von Moltke overhears this. This wasn't a radio transmission to him, who's in charge of them. Just he overhears it and goes, "Yeah, go across the Marne. Don't worry about Paris. Go across the
Chase
Marne.
him.
Chase
Yeah.
him. Chase him. We got it." Von Moltke now put the Second Army under Karl von Bülow in charge of being the assaulting force against the French city of Paris. So basically, von Bülow was now supposed to take Paris, and the First Army was supposed to pursue the French across the Marne. Von Bülow was born March 24th, 1846. Can you guess his occupation, Johnny?
Was he lifetime military?
Lifetime military. Everybody's pretty much lifetime
Man,
military
all
in this
these
one.
folk.
Yeah, they all are. He was also a war criminal for his actions in Belgium,
You don't say.
because Germany has never had any war criminals ever. At Andine on August 20th, 1914, and Leffe, August 23rd, 1914. Leffe?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the beer comes from. I don't
I
know.
wonder.
Yeah, if you know at home, let us know.
Yeah.
Well, the two listeners who've never commented before.
Ashley doesn't know.
Yeah, she doesn't know. Apparently, you can't just go around killing civilians when you invade a country, which is what he did. Yeah, he went around.
Sure?
Yeah, he said Belgium is rebelling against us, so kill all the civilians.
Did you check the rules? Or...
Yeah, you can't do that.
And that's just
There was the
huh?
oh crap, what was it? We didn't sign it. Well, it doesn't matter. There was a convention that was held between all major countries, and they agreed to like not do certain things,
like certain war crimes.
Yeah, and like not kill innocent people.
Yeah,
and they ignored that. So
Europeans ignoring
Hague Convention. It was the Hague Convention. I knew it would come to me. I got it.
And a bunch of Europeans decided, we're gonna kill who we want anyway.
Yep. Well, not Europeans.
The Americans.
Bülow. No. We never signed it. We weren't obligated to.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, we weren't obligated for that. But the Germans did. So von Bülow was.
So they're
and he he did it anyways.
Yeah.
So what makes matters worse in this whole situation between von Moltke and all of his other commands is that he was actually 500 kilometers away from any communication point to the front line. So he's 500 kilometers behind the front line. And not issuing commands and not receiving commands.
Yeah.
Or not receiving intel. And he was waiting for radio reports from von Kluck's First Army to go ahead with issues that never came, because you told von Kluck to do whatever he wanted. So he did whatever he wanted and didn't explain himself.
When you tell people to do whatever they want, they tend to just go and do their thing.
Exactly. So Alexander von Kluck was born the 20th of May, 1846. Career military, Johnny.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Von Kluck would ignore the Grand Directive and instead, turning west to protect von Bülow's flank, continued to pursue the retreating forces southeast, inadvertently opening up a 30-mile hole between the armies, stretching out the supply line, opening up this gigantic hole, so he screwed the pooch.
Yikes.
Yeah. Way to go, von Kluck.
Do you think he felt bad about that?
No, he sure didn't.
Because after you don't listen and then that happens, you're like, because if he's gonna ignore commands, surely he thought, well, I'm ignoring it because I think my plan's gonna be better.
Yeah.
This is gonna be great, and then I'm gonna be a hero.
Spoiler, that's not exactly
all of a
how
sudden,
things...
it all goes to shit, and now he has to deal with repercussions.
You're hitting the nail on the head here, Johnny. As no response came in, von Moltke would reinforce German forces engaging at Verdun instead of the two armies that are around Paris that have exhausted themselves over the past 32 days of constant fighting. He takes some of those soldiers, including some of the soldiers from the First and Second Army, and kirks them over to the Verdun front.
So just taking even more people away.
Yeah. And again, the First and Second Army are now separating each other because one's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And the other one's trying to take Paris.
Okay. Brilliant. This is all going swimmingly so far.
So now that whole French retreat thing might not be looking like a great thing anymore, right? To make matters even worse, von Moltke was actually having a series of mental breakdowns and was observed on multiple occasions talking to himself and writing letters home to his wife that stated that he was having guilt issues over the extreme casualties of the war and blamed himself, which he should have, because it was his fucking fault.
You know, I can't help but in some way feel responsible for this.
I mean, there was a crap ton of Belgians that got slaughtered for no reason. I feel like it might be my fault for invading Belgium for no reason.
Maybe I had something to do with all of this travesty.
So the Entente's plan was that this week, Britain, France, and Russia agreed that no side would make any separate peace with Germany, later to be reneged by Russia when they would make a separate peace with Germany in 1917.
I feel like Russia has always just kind of signed things with their fingers crossed behind their backs.
Pretty much. Papa Joffrey, he would sack the head of the Fifth Army, Charles Lanzerac, in favor of Louis Franchet d'Esprit.
Yeah, nailed it.
I think I nailed it.
Nailed it.
Louis was born the 25th of May, 1856. Career military, because I guess nobody had anything better to do in Europe than be in the military.
What else are you going to do?
He earned Papa Joffrey's favor when he blunted an early German attack at the Battle of San Quentin in a theatrical fashion when he ordered a bayonet charge from horseback as a band played at sunset. To hell with casualties.
Yeah, no. I mean, for real though, he was just a director before video cameras came out. Yeah. He's like, this is going to look amazing, guys.
To the three people that live.
Trust me.
Papa Joffrey convinced the British Expeditionary Force to hold the line and to create an all-out assault on the German position on the Marne River. France would utilize the newly created Sixth Army and its still use of old tube-loading Lebel rifles, blue soft kepi hats, and bright red fucking pants.
How bright?
Bright red, like bright, like you can see that
not
crap from the moon. No, they're still wearing bright red pants. Think of the civil, like think of the Union.
That way you know who to shoot and who not to.
Yeah, think of the Union soldier uniform. It looked almost like that, but instead have really red pants.
I like it. I mean,
it looked fashionable.
You know, you assume the other team's gonna wear like bright blue, for example.
The Germans were wearing gray because you know.
Gray, but that's not all right.
It matches the smoke,
I guess. Seems unfair, but fine. Like they were bright red.
Oh, and the British at this time were wearing khaki. The French did, like there was an order like we got to replace these uniforms and give them something more modern like khaki or something,
right?
Which they chose light blue.
Okay. Against the sky, I guess if they're fighting people really low to the ground.
Yeah, so like if you're German in the trench and you're looking up, you won't be able to see them because it's the sky.
Be the camouflage against sky.
But those uniforms obviously haven't arrived yet, so the Sixth Army is still wearing the bright red pants. Papa Joffrey would coordinate a three-pronged attack. He would attack south with the French Fifth Army, west with the British Expeditionary Force, and the Sixth Army would attack northeast. So basically, the Sixth Army is going basically right a little bit northeast of Paris.
Uh-huh.
The Brits were supposed to just basically go
right on in.
Yeah, just go due east on the western front of the Germans, and the French Fifth Army would go southeast or southwest, depending on whether you're German or French. On September 3rd, Papa Joffrey ordered the retreat to stop, with assaults that were supposed to begin on September 6th. Papa Joffrey spent much of the 4th of September actually confirming that the British would attack and not continue to retreat, as they were under no obligation to follow French orders because there wasn't any formal alliance or order of command. Like there was an agreed alliance, but it wasn't like a formal structure of command. So they had no.
They can't count on them to.
Yeah. He had a continue. He spent a whole day like, "Hey, are you guys? Maybe. Are you stopping? You gonna attack? You gonna attack with us? Yeah. Yes.
You,
no.
Me,
yes.
You,
no.
Yeah.
Maybe." He would wind up personally going to the British command, banging his head on a table and saying, "For the honor of England, it's at stake." Following that meeting, he banged his head on the room. He walked into the room, slammed his head on the table, and said, "It's the honor of England. It's at stake. You must attack."
You know what? we look back at this like it's some like heroic, awesome thing to do. If somebody did that today, they would be a psychopath.
Yes, 100%.
Like, who the hell just walks into a room and slams their head on a table?
Well,
Nobody would listen to this dude.
Well, the British Expeditionary Force did because they agreed to the plan, Johnny.
Golly.
So the first Battle of Marne, it's about ready to kick off, Johnny. Upon receiving assurances from the British Expeditionary Force, late on the 4th of September, Papa Joffrey orders the Sixth Army to attack eastwards at Bülow's extreme right flank. So Bülow's, the Second German Army, attack their right flank. So their farthest northern point. Hit them hard, hit them quick. On the 4th, because even though it was supposed to be on the 6th, we now got Britain to confirm.
Well, now you surprised them.
Now we gotta go because Britain said they're gonna do it, so we gotta go today. We gotta go. At the same time, the British Expeditionary Force was to attack toward Montmiral. Sure.
Yeah.
Where the two German armies separated. So the British were going to attack the 20-kilometer gap. And the Fifth Army was supposed to attack northwards while maintaining the flank security of the Ninth Army. So lots of different divisions, lots of different armies going on. But essentially, it's an all-out assault on the German positions.
Yeah, they're trying to hit them from all sides, trying to...
Yeah, specifically focusing on the extreme flank by Paris and the big old gaping hole between the German First and Second Army.
Sure.
Yep. On the morning of September 5th, the Battle of Ourcq. Orc. That is not how it's spelled or pronounced, but Urk. It is. It's something like that. I googled it, but I forgot it. So it's Urk. Commenced with the Sixth Army advancing eastward from Paris. They would come in contact with German cavalry patrols, and the Germans gained the initiative early in the afternoon with the assistance of the 4th Reserve Corps with field artillery support and pushed the Sixth Army back to Paris. So these fresh recruits who've never been involved in battle got their asses kicked by guys who've been fighting for the last month straight.
Say.
Wow. Couldn't see that coming. Overnight, von Kluck and von Bülow would redeploy their troops.
Sorry.
What?
That name.
Von Kluck.
Von Kluck and
von Kluck. Von Kluck and von Bülow would redeploy their troops. First, von Bülow would move the Reserve Corps eastward to better defensive positions 10 kilometers away from Paris, from where they were. Then von Kluck wheeled his army to face west, while von Bülow moved troops from his left flank north across the Marne to reinforce a counterattack position from the French Sixth Army. So basically what you need to know from all that, because I know it's a little bit confusing, is that von Bülow moved his troops north to engage the Sixth Army at Paris.
Okay.
And von Kluck moved his troops south to engage the Fifth Army.
Okay.
Making that gap that was 20 kilometers.
Gonna go ahead and widen that a little bit?
Yeah, that gap that was 20 kilometers is now 30 kilometers.
Okay, so they closed that.
Because they're not talking with each other.
Perfect.
Over the next few days until September 8th, Kluck and Bülow's maneuvers, which, again, like I said, we're not communicating with each other, would make that massive gap up to 30 kilometers. And ultimately, by the end, by September 8th, it wound up being 50 kilometers wide.
It's just kept making it bigger.
You could, park I don't know. I bet that my town of Brazil, Indiana is probably 50 kilometers. You can park a whole town in that.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good distance. There's no chance this is going to bite them in the ass.
It's almost driving for an hour. Driving an hour, 6 miles on a highway.
Yeah, it's massive. So during the opening days of the battle, Papa Joffrey...
That's opposite, like half an hour. Which way does it go?
Lower. Yeah, kilometers. There's a lot. Yeah, it'd be like
half an hour.
Still like driving half an hour.
That's a long way. Still.
Yeah. During the opening days of the battle, Papa Joffrey would use air recon and observe German movements, specifically the gap that was opening between the two armies.
So they're going to try to figure it out.
So Papa Joffrey goes, "Look, there's no soldiers there for 50 kilometers. Go there." The French and British Expeditionary Force would use rail lines to quickly move troops around the battlefield, so good on them, using the technology at hand. On the 6th of September, the French Fifth Army pinned down the German Second Army at Marines. At the same time, the BEF finally began to advance through the September 6th and 8th and captured several bridges over the Marne. German communication was still shit at this time, and on the night of the 7th, Bülow ordered 2 corps to withdraw to more favorable positions just after von Kluck ordered those same divisions to reinforce his First Army's right flank.
Oh, so now they're starting to get...
They're trying to pick each other's troops away from each other. Yeah, that's great.
These troops are getting some miscommunication.
Yep. So what happened is Bülow was moving the troops from the Second Army's left flank to his right flank, while von Kluck was expecting those forces to reinforce his right flank. So again, now that big old hole that's even larger is even...
It just keeps on going.
Larger and weakening the whole middle of the line. But however, at this point, you're like, the battle's been going on for days. What, like, this should be over. Like, there's a huge hole. What's going on? Yeah, the whole British Expeditionary Force that's responsible for going in. Yeah, the French forces were pissed because they were being slow as shit to do anything. And on the 6th, after 2 days of fighting, they were only able to move 12 kilometers forward.
Why?
Because they were being cautious, I guess.
Because they just didn't want to move more than 12
kilometers. They were substantially behind their objectives. In fact,
I don't want to go up there.
Exactly. They outnumbered the Germans in this area 10-1.
Oh my god!
And still could only progress 12 kilometers.
I don't know, boys. Let's be careful here.
It might be a trap.
Watch your step.
Although to be fair, like you would think. I could see where they think it would be a trap. Like, this can't be this easy.
Well,
the
sure.
Germans can't be this dumb.
But at the same time, like, how many days? Like,
figure
it out.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
D'Esprit was furious by the delays, which is one of the French officers of the Fifth Army, and he continued to pressure hard with the Fifth Army, and by September 8th began crossing the Marne himself, causing Bülow's flank to withdraw, completely opening up that entire hole even more. So von Bülow is like, deuces, I'm outsies. Now you're left with von Kluck's forces to try to hold out.
All right.
But guess what, Johnny? The British were still slow at advancing in the middle.
What? They didn't speed up?
Yeah, no. Now, while all this is going, we get this good legend that comes out, which I'm going to refer to taxis to the motherfucking front, Johnny. Taxis to the front.
Taxis.
Like, not taxes. Taxis, like Uber.
Yeah.
But before Uber.
But like 1990s Uber.
Yeah.
Little yellow cars.
Little yellow cars. While being pushed by the Fifth Army, the Germans hoped that they could turn the tide by smashing and cutting off the French Sixth Army. So basically the hope here is, with von Bülow, I'll withdraw my troops and engage them only in Paris, with the hopes that if I destroy the Sixth Army, we can take Paris and everything's not for lost.
Okay.
However, over the night between the 6th and the 7th, or the 7th and 8th, sorry, of September, the French Sixth Army would be reinforced by 10,000 new soldiers.
Oh.
3,000 of these soldiers would arrive to the front in the unusual way. So General Joseph Galini, who was born the 24th of April, 1849, career military, because again, nobody else has anything to do but shoot each other at this time, would gain his fame pre-war by exiling the Queen of Madagascar and ending a 350-year-old monarchy.
Why?
He felt it was important.
We need to look into that.
And he was brought out of retirement for World War I. He came up with the idea that he would gather 600 taxis from Paris and use them to ferry the soldiers 50 kilometers to the front to reinforce the Sixth Army.
That must have cost a fortune.
Well, we'll get there. 5 soldiers would be transported by each cab, 4 in the back and one up next to the driver.
It's crowded.
That's a crowded car. And these aren't huge. This is like Model Ts.
Yeah,
they're not big to begin
car.
with. Yeah. Only the backlights of the cars were supposed to be lit, so that way they won't be a target for artillery. So he ordered that the drivers just follow the cab in front of you. Follow the cab's light in front of you. So hopefully that first guy knows where the hell he's going.
The first one is really where all
where that concern
the
is.
responsibility lies.
For most French
Can he
soldiers,
have his lights on?
right? Yeah,
Maybe just one.
maybe one. For most French soldiers, this was the very first time that they even seen an automobile up close, let alone actually ride in one. And short of the fact that they were riding to their death, I'm sure this was probably a great adventure for them.
I mean, I'm guessing some of them thought that they were riding to their death just because they were getting onto one of these things.
Yeah. Well, probably that too.
Like it's a
Yes.
brand new horrifying machine, like that you're just gonna get on and it's gonna
Those death
take
trap
you,
horseless
what?
carriages.
15 miles an hour down the road, like Jesus.
By the way, the French, like you said about must have cost a fortune, were actually nice and allowed the taxi drivers to have their meters running the whole time
Good.
and pay the taxi drivers
The proper fees.
the proper
All
fees,
right. I bet they didn't tip well.
as opposed to just commandeering them.
I
I bet they didn't tip well.
they
No,
didn't tip well shit.
total cost was 70,012 francs.
That seems for how many?
They wound up getting
Six-
3,000 soldiers to the front that way.
3,000?
Yeah, 600 taxi cabs, 3,000 soldiers. These taxi cabs were running all night. By the way, most of the taxis that were demolished.
Well, that's where that's got to be where the money's
Probably
coming from, right?
most of them
Because
were destroyed.
that's expensive until you start totaling cars out.
Yeah, most of them were gone by the end of it. But a few of the taxis that did remain would actually wind up continuing to run to the front and then back to Paris, transporting wounded. So
I mean, how close
really
were
the
they
real
getting?
hero of this
I mean,
this battle was the taxi drivers.
They were getting
yeah.
close enough that they were getting shot at, and hit
shelled,
with
yeah.
artillery and. Good God, what? Just normal taxi drivers.
Normal taxi drivers. Like imagine going downtown Indy, like to the airport, and being
These
like,
guys
"Hey,
gotta be like,
I need to
getting paid
transport
enough
these
for
soldiers
this."
to like Iraq."
Like, yeah, I can
Good
leave
luck.
sure, I can leave my meter running. That's great, but like,
I don't want
I'm
to
not
die.
getting paid enough for this shit. Like, can I double or triple it at least?
So obviously these reinforcements, 10,000 total, but 3,000 from specifically from the taxis, kind of quashed any hopes that the Germans had to really break through the Sixth Army. Pair that up with the German shit communication, and well, you get the Great German Retreat, Johnny. So the night
Those are some sweet words.
Yeah, so the night of September 8th, the French Fifth Army launched a surprise attack to further that gap between the second and first. Basically, like, look, Britain, we're sick of your crap and lollygagging. We're going to take this under our own hands,
Our turn.
and we're going to hit the middle between the two fronts,
that
or between the
giant
two
gap.
armies.
You gotta go.
We're going to go ahead and go through it. Bulow was at risk at this time of having his entire army encircled, so he ordered the entire retreat across the Aisne River. Von Kluck wanted to stay, feeling that he was just this close to breaking through the Sixth Army.
Guys, I got
this. I'm
one
almost
more
there.
week. One more week.
We got it. But his second command reminded them that the Second Army was already in full retreat, and they were on their own, so you can go ahead and stay, but bye.
Yeah, we're not gonna be here with you.
Kluck reluctantly ordered his troops to retreat across the Aisne River as well. By the way, during this entire time period, can you guess how many commands were issued from von Moltke to the front, or any updates were given from the front to von Moltke?
They had to have been in constant communication.
A big old fat 0.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Why?
0. Because von Moltke thought they had it covered, man.
You guys
got
will be
it.
fine.
They got it.
I told you what to do, right? You figured it all out?
They got it.
No? What?
Nope, they sure didn't. By the 9th of September, the French forces were entirely across the Marne, and the German army was in full retreat. Upon hearing the news, von Moltke had a nervous breakdown, and his subordinates had to take over command. But, everybody continued to do their own thing because that's how things were done.
I mean,
so nobody was really in command of anything anyways.
Yeah,
so basically,
really
von Moltke just had a breakdown.
Yeah, nothing changed.
Over the next few days, the Entente forces would pursue the Germans, but at a very slow pace. As the men were exhausted, they had suffered extreme casualties at this point on both sides, and were averaging only 19 kilometers a day. So you were giving shit to the British, but now you're not really doing much better.
Right, yeah.
By September 13th, the German forces had stopped the retreat at the Aisne River and began digging in. They said, you know what, we've gone far enough. facing somebody in open battle, it hasn't been going well. People have machine guns now.
Yeah.
Being in a line
Yeah,
formation is
things
kind
are
of
different
stupid.
than they used to be. This is weird.
So I'm going to go ahead and dig a trench.
Hey, if we dig a hole, they can't hit us.
Right? And by September 10th, all the German armies west of Verdun that were retreating towards the Aisne had now stopped retreating and were establishing defensive positions on the Aisne River, which would lead into the Battle of the Aisne, which, long story short, this is where trench warfare starts. Essentially, the British, or the Entente forces, the British and French forces, hit the German flanks, who then continue to dig a new hole and hit the flank and dig a new hole and hit the flank all the way up to the coast. And so now there's just this really gigantic, long series of trenches.
Look at these holes. We can just get in here and then shoot from here. And oh, this is amazing.
Yep. By the way, the French and the British, throughout the entire war, the Germans were like, these are fixed defensive positions. We're going to make them nice.
Yeah.
We're going to make them out of concrete. We're going to have,
So they're like
the amenities of home.
On
we're going to actually have bunkers.
Trenches.
Yeah, we're going to have bunkers. We're going to have. They did
this
the German,
will be where we fight from.
They had the German mentality of making everything nice. The French, however, and the British thought these are just temporary fighting positions, so they never actually. Their trenches were just mud holes with a couple of sticks on the ground.
Yeah. You can get in, and now you can get out.
But I tell you what, one side was way more comfortable and not dying of disease nearly as bad as the other side was.
There is the disease thing.
Yeah. So there is that.
Disease is a problem.
When you're making your soldiers sleep on the muddy ground and get trench foot.
Yeah.
Things don't go very well. So the aftermath of this all is that we'll do our casualty report, Johnny.
All right. Ding, ding, ding.
And since we don't really care about casualty reports anyways, because we always think they're biased, the good news is there actually isn't an exact casualty count for this war, or for this battle, and the war for the most part. It's just all estimates, because there was a crap ton of people, and we can't really count every head.
Yeah.
So the French would engage with 1,082,000 men total.
That's so many.
250,000 casualties.
That's
with 80,000 being confirmed KIA.
That's a lot.
That's
25%.
That's congratulations, you won. But did you?
I mean, God, at a cost of 250,000 people.
The British Expeditionary Forces would engage with 13,000, or would have a total of 13,000 casualties. I don't have a specific number for how many they had, but they had 13,000 casualties.
That's significantly
less, but they also had only 6 divisions as opposed to like the 60 that the French had, and they were being really slow and lazy.
I mean, sure, but yeah. You have less people to lose, so you're going to lose less.
Yeah. 1,700 of those would be KIAs. The Germans would engage with 900,000 men, 250,000 casualties estimated, with 67,700 being KIAs. They would also lose 11,717 prisoners, 30 field guns, and 100 machine guns during the retreat. So a lot of equipment lost in addition to life.
Yeah, which
that hurts.
In the long term
that's going to hurt.
That's
going to hurt in 1917.
Human life and everything, but yeah, long term, that's not great for losing in a battle or a war.
So the like I talked about a little bit earlier, the Spade becomes the unsung hero / villain of World War I. Once the Germans reached the Aisne, they began using the Spade to great effect, digging their trenches, strong defensive positions, and the French thought that was a dishonorable way to fight, so they didn't like it and didn't do it until they realized, oh wait, we really need to do the same thing because we're getting butchered. The Battle of the Aisne did not go well. Yeah, the Battle of the Aisne did not go well for the French.
Oh, I mean, a lot of the recent wars haven't gone great for the French.
No. After getting butchered at the first portion of the Battle of the Aisne, like I said, they quickly realized, yeah, we probably should dig in, and that's how we get the Western Front trench warfare. Von Moltke, he loses his shit and he loses his post. Von Moltke would be removed from command for obvious reasons. Can't have a command if you're not actually commanding anything.
There's that.
After the battle, he is said to have written 2 letters, one to his wife and one to the Kaiser. To the Kaiser,
the 2 loves of his life.
To the Kaiser, he is alleged to write that, Majesty, we have lost the war.
My bad.
You sure did, but we're going to go ahead and drag it out for another 4 years, because why not?
Dear Majesty, this is my bad. I want to put that out there first and foremost. But please don't take it out on me.
We should keep fighting, though, for another 4 years and kill millions more, because why not?
Can't admit defeat.
To his and that was a speculation. To his wife, they actually have a letter, and it says, things have not gone well. The fighting east of Paris has not gone in our favor, and we shall have to pay for the damage that we have done.
The understatement of the century, ladies and gentlemen.
You think? Papa Joffrey, even though it was his shit planning that led to the position that the French army was in the beginning, to begin with the Battle of the Marne, he would actually, be given a super bunch of a credit, even though, like, D'Esprit was actually really the plan for the Battle of the Marne, and Joffrey just kind of, like, was the overall command.
Yeah.
But Joffrey got to take the credit, so Joffrey got to keep his post. But, spoiler alert, his command would be stripped away later due to failures at Verdun.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Where he pointlessly and needlessly sends
you can't do that.
millions to their deaths.
Yeah, you gotta just take it down a notch, pal.
Charging that fortified position didn't work. Do it again. That didn't work. You're not brave enough. Do it again.
Guys, have you
that
tried
didn't work?
A fourth time?
One more time. Yeah. So this is an Entente victory? Question mark. I mean, yes, French forces stopped their retreat. True. They do claim it as a decisive victory. Question mark.
Okay.
Both sides hope for quick victories to end the war, which did not come because they engaged in trench warfare that resulted in a 4-year stalemate that resulted in millions and millions of deaths. So is that the victory? I don't know.
I mean, so it's like winning a football game, but yeah, your star quarterback has a torn ACL.
Yeah, so you won the game, but did you win the war? Both sides lost similar supplies, men, and resources. The French did stop the Schlieffen Plan and the German advance. However, the Germans were still in France, and now we're in the trench warfare. So you pushed them back 20 kilometers from what they'd gained.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah. So really, it was more of a minor victory or even a wash, in my opinion.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Historic Hindsight. Every week, we take a look at some of the major events that took place during this week in a segment that we like to call This Week in History.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
All right, Johnny, so first thing I got up for you today is that Patrick Henry is going to proclaim that give me liberty or give me death. On March 23rd, 1775. So famous speech there, right?
All right. Our first viral quote.
Yeah, right. So to avoid interference from Lieutenant Governor Dunmore and his Royal Marines, the Second Virginia Convention was started on March 20th, 1775. On the 23rd, Patrick Henry spoke with a proposal to organize a volunteer company of cavalry and infantry in every Virginia county. So basically, we need a military to fight the Marines.
Not just a state military, but county by county.
County
Each
by county,
one
yeah.
of you guys
Each county
go and get your
get us some
military
people
together.
Yep. His speech was not written down, but he spoke with such passion and elegance that everyone there agreed that it was the speech to never be forgotten, but nobody wrote it down.
I mean, he rehearsed it though, right?
Yeah, and like nobody wrote it down. Like nobody
well, because they were never going to forget it.
Yeah, well,
so none of them ever forgot it.
They did all agree that it ended with...
But it was amazing.
Yeah.
Trust us.
They did agree that it ended with give me liberty or give me death, but I'm kind of suspicious that that actually was ever said, if it was just propaganda, that they were like, that sounds good, we should use it.
It was just written afterwards.
Yeah. Henry's first biographer, William Wirt, was able to piece together sections of the speech available from writings and records from people who remembered hearing it later, but didn't actually record it at the time.
It's like the second writing of the Bible.
Exactly. There you go, Johnny.
No. 400 years ago, some dude told me he heard this. So it's fine.
Yeah, and it was like, I think, if I remember right, the biographer William Wirt was like not even alive at the time that Patrick Henry was.
Oh, so. I'm sure not.
Oh, well. So the next thing I got there for you, Johnny, is that the first Easter perhaps happens on March 25th, 31.
Perhaps?
Perhaps. Well,
31, that soon, huh?
Yeah, 31.
Wow.
I will tell you why I say perhaps. According to the calendar maker, Dionysus Exiguus.
Dionysus?
Exiguus. It's Exiguus. Exiguus. The first Easter occurred on March 25th, 31. Dionysus was a 6th century monk who lived from 470
Wait.
to 544.
Okay.
So I'm sure he knew the exact date of when things happened in 31.
So, I'm sorry, the piece of This Week in History you brought was that some monk in what year?
He lived from 470 to 554.
In 470. So in the 4th and 5th century said that the first Easter happened
5th and 6th century, Johnny.
5th and 6th. Okay,
Yeah.
500 years before he was alive.
Yep.
That seems credible.
You know what, Johnny? You keep yelling at me for bringing awful things, so it's close to Easter, and I thought, why don't we talk about Easter?
That's fine. No, that's a nice story, Tom.
Jesus, Johnny,
It's just got some holes in it.
I know. That's why I brought it up, because I think it's stupid. He was born in Scythia Minor, which is modern-day Romania. So,
and how did he determine that it was when it was held?
So he would invent the Anno Domini, or the AD era, the existence of that, the idea of the AD era. So before Common Time, now we have the AD era, and it's used in pretty much all modern calendars, including both the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar being the more popular, the ones
that's important.
most of the Christian world uses.
Yeah.
In 525, he prepared a table for future dates of Easter because he's making this calendar. We're now
like,
Christians.
When's Easter gonna be?
We got to know when Easter's going to be. So he makes arguments for his calculations that the first Easter was on the 25th day of March 31.
So he picked an arbitrary date.
Pretty much.
And then worked back. He said Easter's this day this year.
And then worked back.
And then just worked backwards. But why did he stop at 31?
Well, first off,
why did he just, I guess.
I don't understand, why Easter celebrated different days every year. If the guy died on the first Friday of whatever it was.
Because it was based on the equinox.
Okay. Well, that was because you didn't want your kids going off and having fun at the pagan festivals.
So that was around the same time, but then you have to do it on a Sunday because you have to make these pagans holidays. If it was Christian, and so you just pick a Sunday near that time, and there you go.
Okay, Johnny, but if I was born on leap year, I don't celebrate my birthday only once every 4 years.
You should. I'm sorry. That's
I pick. All right, maybe that's a bad. So if I was born on the full moon, that means my birthday is only ever going to occur on a full moon. And so, like, if I was born on May 8th on a full moon, then I can't have another May 8th birthday until a full moon, or do I just pick another
until the full moon
around
May?
That's stupid. Just pick the day that you think that he actually died on and do that.
Okay, but
it sounded like the Christians just wanted a 3-day weekend.
I mean, I think what it actually is they just wanted to convert this pagan holiday into a Christian holiday, and go ahead and steal it. And convert the pagans at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. Well, so Jesus was supposed to be what, like 30, 31 when he died. So I think the idea here is that AD starts when Jesus was born.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
So since he was 31 when he died, we'll say it was 31st year, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. I didn't care enough to look at the specific arguments as to why, but this guy in 525 said March 25th, 31.
So some crackpot,
first Easter.
490 years later. Sounds good.
Yep. All right, Johnny, the last thing I got for you is a positive. We'll go with that. It's a positive. The British Parliament abolishes the slave trade in the British Empire on March 25th, 1807.
Seems like a positive. Why?
It seems like a
positive. Why stick with a question mark?
Well, bear with me. What it does is it's officially designated the Slave Trade Act of 1807, and it prohibits the slave trade in British Empire, although it didn't actually abolish the practice of slavery itself. Just, you can't transport them anymore.
You can't.
Like, transport them overseas. You can't go take them from Africans. You can't take them from the Africans.
You're not supposed to use the hard R on Africa.
Yeah, you can't take them from Africa and then bring them anywhere else. You can't do that. You can't.
So basically, Our current stock is what you get.
Our current stock.
You
is
can
what
you
get.
can breed from that stock, no doubt.
Yes, you can breed from that stock.
Yeah.
Yes, you could breed from the stock. You could sell the slaves that you do have already, but you can't go off and capture new ones.
No more new. No more new. This is like an early immigration policy.
Yeah. A fine of £100, or the equivalent of £9,262 today, would be levied on any ship, captain, per slave found on board.
Ooh, per slave.
Per slave.
That's,
per slave.
Hefty.
So this is where I say it's good. Good.
Yeah, great.
But here's the question mark part.
Oh no.
So instead of actually stopping the trade, it just encouraged the ship captains to dump the cargo, quote unquote, overboard to avoid the fines that the British vessels would have incurred if they see a British vessel approaching. So basically, if you're in the slave trade, whether you're British, French,
Yeah.
American at this point, doesn't much matter, and you see a British troop, vessel coming forward to find you and
Right, to search
shut
your
you
boat
down
to
and
see
free your
what
slaves,
what kind of cargo you're carrying.
you just dump the cargo overboard,
Right.
chains
Yeah.
and all.
Just but I mean, what I see that's their mistake. You should let them tread water and then recollect them once the British ship
like
leaves.
go like a nautical mile away and then come back.
like it
and
because
hope that
they'll
they-
come and be like, "Hey, all those." It'd be like they're not on my boat. They're not my. I don't know what they're
They're
doing.
not
They're
my- yeah.
swimming next to me.
Weird.
Maybe they're mermaids. I don't know.
Could be. The British government forms what's called the West African Squadron, which was established in 1808 to patrol slave trade seas. Between 1808 and 1860, they would seize a total of 1,600 ships and free 150,000 slaves. So
Okay.
good. That's
Yeah.
actually pretty good. That's not bad numbers.
bad.
Over 60 years
Oh,
basically.
Over a while, so yeah.
52.
Okay.
They got 150,000 slaves freed, which isn't awful. I
3 a
question
year.
how many of those slaves may have
30?
drowned in the water
Well,
because of this, though.
maybe a couple.
British government deemed that any slave ship would be treated as a pirate, so their entire crew could potentially be subjected to pirate treatment, which was
Oh, yeah.
so just and fair.
Yep.
They also usurped a king in Africa when he did not comply with stopping the slave trade. So basically, Britain went into an African colony or whatever.
The king that was
The king that was over that specific area and said, "You have to stop." And he said, "Nah, I'm not going to do that."
It's like, no, they're still paying me. You don't understand.
And then they usurped him anyways.
And then no.
So that's why I put the caveat there. If it's a good thing, but probably had a few
I mean,
consequences.
to be fair, that's most of history. Anything good in history, it's like, it was great that this happened, but there were some unintended consequences.
Look away. It was great that we killed those sparrows. They were everywhere.
And then it led to starvation for millions of people.
It happened.
And that's This Week in History.